Right, Hadley. Hey Simon, how are you? I am fine and dandy. Um, yeah, just yeah. It's weird. It's weird how we've all been conditioned for house arrest because my inner recluse is, out and raging, or not raging, but I'm in. Yeah, like I never leave the house anymore. I think. I've noticed my mileage go down dramatically. The only place I go to these days is the Tesco Express down the road. I think I'm even doing less than. I think I'm actually doing less than 2 miles a week now. For a while, it started, at 20 miles a week, then 10, then that. Now it's literally 2, barely that. And it's fine. I love it. So, right, 12 o'clock. Let's crack on. Hey, everyone on Clubhouse and also Facebook. Good to see you all here for these daily wealth generation chats. Like always, I'm going to go through a few bits and bobs. I've made a little list here whilst I was just sat here waiting of some business bad decision making, some F-ups, and more importantly, the learning points that we can all derive from it, because it's always good to basically step around other people's landmines or, dead remains from stepping on a landmine, if that makes sense. And if at any point anyone on Clubhouse wants to add their 2 cents or ask a question, just pop your hand up and I'll give you the mic. And likewise on Facebook, please just pop your questions in the chat. I can see the chat questions, so that's all good. Right, let's crack on. So the first one. And all of these sort of errors are going to be all over the place. There's no real theme. It's not like trading or whatever. It's just generic stuff. And the first one I've put down is being a sandbag. And I've wasted so much money and time being a sandbag. So what I mean by that is when you're buying a business or investing in a business, it's when you buy a certain amount of equity, i.e. bugger all, where you have no voting rights, you have no control of the business, you have no dividends, and the business isn't being sold. And so what are you? You're just a shareholder, a glorified shareholder that can't do jack shit. And there have been so many times, and this is the reason I started with this is because this is an error which I've made time and time again, and I never learned from it because I suffered from bloody magpie-itis, shiny new object, shiny new business to put money into, and then you end up being a sandbag. So I guess if you are ever going to invest in a business, just I really wouldn't bother unless you have control of it, you can have divvies, and there's definitely going to be an exit, because some of these businesses, they had no intention of ever exiting. And so all I did was, end up giving them 50 grand, 100 grand, and then just sat there, not getting dividends, nothing. It's just an utter waste of your money. So don't do it. And I guess this was prompted because it's died down a little bit, but it's sort of picked up recently. And I used to get a lot of messages saying, hey Sam, I found this brand new company, it's going to change the world, blah blah blah, and they're offering equity, blah blah blah. And I was like, okay, so how much money are you going to put in, what equity will you get? And nearly all of the time it's like, oh yeah, it's a breakthrough in I don't know, solid state batteries, or a crazy new anti-gravity device, or whatever, insert any crazy invention. And yeah, they're only asking for £10,000 and I'll get 0.1% of the company. I'm like, well, don't bother. So with any sort of crazy groundbreaking technologies, a good rule of thumb is that it's going to take 10 years to get to market properly. And so just don't bother. Do not bother, one, setting up any invention type business. You're just going to bleed money, time and stress and health. And two, or invest in any of them until it's at least 10 years has passed since the beginning of that idea or product came round. I mean, just look at virtual reality. Imagine how many millions of people got burned investing in virtual reality companies back in the 90s. And I remember playing with a virtual reality arcade thing on Yarmouth. In Great Yarmouth in Norfolk. I remember I was like 10 years old and I was putting this massive box on my head and I was playing VR in Great Yarmouth. I was like, wow, by the time I'm 18 I'm going to be able to have sex in VR or so. No, I wasn't thinking that. But you know what I mean. And then what's happened? It's now 2021 and VR is still shit. And I've got the world's best VR headset right there, and it's a pile of poo. So VR is a long way away. Give it 5 years. And I've said this for a while, especially with VR. It's not going to break into mainstream until it's the size of swimming goggles. The field of view is like human field of view, which is what is it? What is the human field of view? Is it like 250 degrees, something like that? And resolution is great, but with VR right now, it's absolutely, yeah. So being a sandbag, don't bother. Do not put any money into companies where you have no control, no divvies, nothing. So a good filter is any company you invest in, will you get dividends? Yes or no? No? Okay, don't bother. Simple as that. You have to be obsessed with ROTE and ROCE. So return on time invested and return on capital invested. Cannot stress that enough. So next F up or learning point really is contracts mean nothing. Some of you may have heard this before, but I have had endless problems with contracts. To the point where, as in I've always been in the correct, like I've been the one being screwed over. So especially in the world of M&A, honestly, business was relatively straightforward and pretty easy, and just tumbling along, doing my thing, until I got into the world of mergers and acquisitions. Then all of a sudden, all of the world's crooks landed on my doorstep. Honestly, it's nuts. I think, and I sort of understand why. I think it's because money is an amplifier, right? So money simply amplifies one's general nature. So when there's not much money around, there's not much money in a deal or whatever, that money isn't amplifying someone's true nature. But when there's 7 to 8 figures on the table, money really amplifies one's true nature, and then you see their inner douchebag come out. And so when I started getting into the world of mergers and acquisitions, I'm like, Jesus Christ. At one point, I went through 6 years of business going, people in business are actually all right. I haven't met any sharks yet, blah, blah, blah. And then boom, before you know it, everyone I was dealing with was a freaking liar. And to the point where, and so going back to the contracts thing, several times, I think there's been at least 5 occasions where I've done a deal, airtight contract, okay, airtight, paid good money to a good solicitor to, and I've even said every time, so is this an airtight contract? If this all goes to shit and I go to court, will this contract save me and will I win in court? And they're 2 questions I always asked. And third one is, are you sure? And yeah, okay. Fourth one, if I was to take this contract to another solicitor, what holes are they going to find in it? And then that's quite intriguing, because then they'll go, oh yeah, well someone could argue this point, but they're only trying to justify their fee, yada yada yada. And okay, well can we just make it even more airtight? Yes, we can. Blah, blah, blah. For an extra £1,000, yes, of course. And so airtight contract, deal goes wrong, someone reneges on the contract, and you're like, okay. So you now have a reneged deal, someone that's not honoured their obligations. You have an airtight contract. What do? Well, you try and appeal to their nice, benevolent side, going, hey mate, you said you do this, but you haven't. Can I have my money back, please? Or can you honour this agreement? And if they then go, nope, which is what happens a lot, which has happened to me a lot, then what do? You're forced to go legal. And so the moment you're forced down the legal route, what then happens? You may as well bend over a table and let solicitors come and just pickpocket you, because that's all that happens. Money only goes to solicitors, and no one wins other than solicitors. And even with airtight contracts that your solicitor created, when they go and try and enforce that contract, there's even more fees. And there's been twice now I've gone to court. I hate court. You have to wear a tie. I refuse to wear a tie unless it's at funerals. I just hate suits. And there's twice I've gone to court where I've been completely in the right. I was just enforcing my own contract, and I've won both times in court. But what happens? Bugger all. There's there's one guy that owed me 40 grand plus interest. Okay, went through mediation. I was really generous. Like, he was like 3 years overdue, and he owed me like 40 grand plus interest, which is 8% per year, plus all the legal fees. So really, he owed me something like 60 grand. Okay, being 3 years, basically it was a 40 grand loan. He didn't pay it. 3 years later, finally took him to court, and then even in mediation, I said, like, look, sorry, I'm going on my hair today. I just want my principal back. It's just a matter of principle. I want my principal back. Just give the 40k. I don't care about the cost. Blah blah blah. Still said no. Went to court. The court saw that I was completely reasonable and went. And the judge actually bollocked him. It was like I think the judge said it was something like it's surprising how blazing and disrespectful some people can be, and blah, or whatever. So what happened is that the guy was then ordered to pay me £250 per month to pay the 40k back. So I didn't even ask for the interest. I just wanted 40k back. He pled poverty, and he's now paying £250 per month for the next 10,000 years. But then after 3 or 4 months, he stopped paying. Literally, the last time I checked, it's been like 6 months ago. And so I had to prod him. And he goes, "Oh, I'm so sorry, COVID." But what do? The only thing I can do now is push him into personal bankruptcy. But then I get nothing. So, yeah. And there's another deal where one guy had an airtight contract, and 400 grand gone. And the contract said that if the deal didn't go through, within 6 months, I'd get my 400 grand back. It took 4.5 years to get my 400 grand back. 4.5 years. Now look at the opportunity cost in that. The amount of money I've lost out from not having that 400 grand has been absolutely mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. Yeah. So that's frustrating. So long story short, contracts mean jack shit unless you have the time and money to enforce it. And even when you do that, the outcome is not what you think. And then before you know, and there was another guy that owed me 100 grand and was 3 years overdue. And in the end, mind you, to be fair, over those 3 years, he did pay off like every now and again after lots of poking. I think he paid out like 65 grand, I think, off the top of my head. So he was trying to honour his agreement. And then in the end, it went to mediation, and then I had to settle for another half. So I never got the 100 grand back. I got back probably like 80 grand out of, yeah. But then when you add on legal fees, Jesus Christ. So these days, believe it or not, since I've learned from my dealings with solicitors, I don't bother now. I literally don't bother with solicitors anymore. And through the ringer, I've learned a lot about contract law, believe it or not. And I'm an idiot. I don't know anything. But I've learned enough to protect myself. So whenever I do a deal now, my share purchase agreement, whenever I buy a business, is 1 page. 1 page. Maybe 2 if it's slightly complex. Whereas most people have like a 10-page SPA. My SHAG, my shareholders agreement, is normally 4 pages long. Whereas most people end up with a SHAG which is like 20 pages long. And the reason being is that I know now from bitter experience is that when things go wrong, a contract means nothing. And so it doesn't matter whether you have 4 pages or 20 pages. And so I'm just very particular in who I do business with now. And to the point where I'm so blunt up front. I've been called, like, I think sometimes people are shocked with how straight and brutally honest and blunt I am when I deal in business. I have no time for politics or bullshit these days. I literally just speak my mind. If you don't like what my mind is speaking, then we're obviously not going to do well in business. Because even when we do, like, speak to any of my staff, like, I know, find them on LinkedIn or Facebook, just ask them, what is your honest experience of SIAM? And I give anyone listening, I give my staff full permission to speak their true mind, what they think about me. I don't care, because, in fact, I do care what they think of me, but they all know I will speak my mind. And so there's zero, like, politics. So if someone screws up, I'll say, dude, that was shit, don't let it happen again. No, in fact, I don't even have to say that anymore. My team is so awesome now that, like, what happens is if there's a mistake in the business, they'll go, hey mate, this happened, this was the error, it happened because I forgot to do this, But what I've done is I've fixed the solution. I've put in an SOP so that this never happens again, and I'm sorry. And I go, Ledge, thanks, mate. Cool. I cannot remember the last time I bollocked someone. Oh, actually, I can. But that person then left, which is fine. And so I think it's good to be brutally straight and honest with people, because then people know where you stand. And yeah, I think that's one learning point I found. Before, I used to worry about, if I say this, I'll hurt their feelings. Well, yeah, don't. just don't. And if anyone knows me, I am a really nice guy. I just tell the truth. And it's been liberating. Yeah, it's been liberating. It's really fun. So what else is there? Contracts mean nothing. Scams. I'll talk. Maybe do we have time for scams? Oh, it's 15:15. Yeah, scams. So I think over the last 10 years, 12 years, I've been caught up in 2, maybe 3 scams. As in, I've been the victim of scams. Yesterday, I think I talked about Cardlight, that credit card scam. That was one. That was like 10 years ago. The other one, the most recent one was about 4 years ago, and this one actually rocked me to the core, because someone I really trusted royally raped us, basically. And I don't like that word, but it's a harsh and strong word. But in terms of where trust and loyalty are, that person did that to all of us. And so, just to set the scene here, I've been part of it's called the Digital. In fact, I won't say the name of the group. Basically, we're a whole bunch of digital entrepreneurs, and for the last 8 years, I've been going to this group, and every month we meet for a dinner in London, and it's great. There's all sorts of different business owners there. There's normally about 10, maybe 15 people, depending on if it's a big dinner. And they're different, obviously, in the digi world, and they're so switched on. And for a long time, I was the poorest person in the room by a country mile, for a long time. And so I've always looked up to a lot of the people in this group, and there are some proper movers in this group. I mean, they are, massive, like 50 mil value, plus. And in fact, if you saw my interview the other day with Brian Marcel, he's in that group as well. So it's people like Brian Marcel in this group. And so, some top switch on cookies. Anyway, and so what happened is so all of this happened like 4 years ago. And so, but before then, there was this guy called Amir, and I will say his name because he's a scam artist. Amir Butt, that's his name. And he joined the group. He's running a medical tech company, and all is fine. And then 4 years pass, and we all trust Amir, okay? And don't forget, so what happens, we have these dinners, and then we go to Soho afterwards to a bar, and then carry on the chat. So we have a formal dinner and all that sort of stuff, and we share ideas and opportunities, and then we go for drinks, normally in the Hospital Club in Soho or, other places. And it's really cool. And then you really get to know people, when you're drinking after hours and whatnot. And I've had so many awesome conversations with Amir. And he, I have to be completely balanced. He is fascinatingly clever. Fascinating, because the amount of conversations I had, some deep conversation with him, we were talking about string theory and parallel universes and all that sort of stuff, and he has a very good academic mind on him. He's very sharp. He knows a lot about science and physics, and that sort of stuff fascinates me. And so, over a 4-year period, we all liked and knew and trusted Amir, and all these dinners, every now and then he would regale some awesome stories of how when he was an undercover Met detective, stuff like when he was busting a crime syndicate in Birmingham, all these sorts of stuff, and yeah, we sort of we were like, oh cool, we got this ex-detective, running a medical tech company, blah blah blah, and then eventually in 2017 he approached us all with an ICO opportunity and so initial coin offering, sorry. And it was a way that we could basically invest in his medical tech company, because for, up until that point, for the last 4 years, he's been working on this cancer detecting machine. And we thought it was game changing. And in hindsight, we now know he was very fraudulent with what he was sharing with us. Like, he'd bring in this machine. In fact, he brought one to my house and showed me this, and he was like and he said that he's detected all sorts. Anyway, we got caught up in the whole. It's very similar to that. What is the name of that lady in America that had the blood scanning thing? Theranos. Her. Honestly, the scam that Amir played was identical to Theranos. It was ridiculous. It was uncanny. It was like he was copying her and doing it on a smaller scale. Anyway, so what happened is that a whole bunch of people invested in this Medici type thing. That's what it was called. And when I saw, and I thought I had top cover, because I saw all of my respected peers, like people 10 times richer than me, that have been in business for 10 times longer than me, putting big chunks of money in this project. One of my good friends became, the chief marketing officer of it, and I was like, shit, you've just quit your whole marketing company and business to become the CMO of this business. I was like, geez, and he's a smart cookie. I was like, so all of these smart people that are respected jumped in on this, and I was like, okay, shit, we've got millions of pounds of my friend's money's being put into this, and who am I to say? Yeah, and obviously we all knew and trusted him, and we saw the machine working with our own eyes, or so we thought. Long story short, we all got scammed. And he's done a runner, and he's so credible. And every time we cornered him, we actually got him into the room. I'm surprised he actually came into the room, and whoo, that was one of the most tense meetings I've ever had. Basically, after the whole thing erupted, and it all turned out that he scammed us and stuff. We had one of these dinners, and we met someone who was a bit closer to him, managed to get him along for a Q&A. And that was horrendous. Honestly, it was scathing. If these people were violent, he wouldn't be alive. There's obviously, yeah. And he would just bullshit, complete bullshit. He'd be like, look, I'll share all the financials, I'll share everything. And he probably said that about 20 different times over the space of a year. No one ever saw the financials. So I got hurt, a lot of other people got hurt, and that rocked me to the core of who you can trust. I genuinely considered him a friend. I vouched for him personally to lots of different people. And so I don't know if you've ever had a situation like that where someone who you generally thought was genuine absolutely came and destroyed you in terms of trust and stuff like that. And so I have trust issues as a result. I don't trust anyone. Literally, I don't know. But at one point, I used to have a filter going, I only trust people that I've known for at least 5 years. But that doesn't even work. So I think, so I think in business, especially if you're going into M&A, especially, you will need a good bullshit detector. But even if you were to ask me, Simon, on a scale of 1 to 10, where do you see your bullshit detector? I would have said, 7 or 8. I thought I had a good bullshit detector. Evidently, he screwed me. And it wasn't that good. If you were to ask me right now, with all of my hindsight, the amount of times I've been screwed over, Simon, what is your bullshit detector like? I would say, pretty damn good. Will I be scammed again in the future? Most likely, yes. It's just a simple matter of fact. I will be in business till the day I die. I plan to live well into my hundreds. And so on a scale, it's highly likely I will be scammed again. Scams just get more sophisticated and better, and the best scam artists are the ones that look trustworthy, if that makes sense, or seem that trustworthy. We've got a hand up here with Richard. Richard, hopefully you have the mic. Do you have the mic?
Yeah, good afternoon. Can you hear me okay?
Hey mate, yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, great. So just a question on that, Sam. So how deep do you dig? Because I've been looking in the past of joint ventures and acquisitions and that kind of thing, and without kind of asking for the bank login details, how could you even small companies that have unaudited accounts could obviously be faked.
Oh yeah.
So how far would you go in your diligence and investigation work before you?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, really good question. So, for a start, never, ever, 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 ever trust the management accounts that a company gives you. Never. I do not trust a P&L, a balance sheet, or management accounts from any business. Simply because I've learned enough in accounting that you can make a really shit company look amazing. Like, so in my group right now, I've got 3 failing businesses, 3 businesses that are doing all right, and 3 businesses that are doing really well. It's weird. It's like a third, a third, a third. And if I wanted to, with one of my failing businesses, I could easily, legally massage all of the numbers so it looks like the best damn investment opportunity on the planet. And I could sell that business pretty quickly if I basically legally forged or legally massaged the numbers, if that makes sense. And I'm just a simple bloke from Norwich. If I know how to do that, imagine if you had a switched on, PwC accountant. Yeah, and the wonders that they could probably do. And I don't, I'm small fry, so I don't trust anything. And so as a result of being screwed over in M&A so much, I actually combined my trading knowledge with M&A, and I've actually created what I now call, it originally was called the NORA, the no risk acquisition, but I think obviously there's no such thing as the no risk. So I now call it the LORA, the low risk acquisition, LORA. And what happens now with my LORA is that whenever I buy a business, I do no due diligence. I do probably a day of due diligence, and that's about it. If you look on my YouTube channel, or in fact, if you join the WAP, thewap.org, it's all in there, the LORA. Also, if you look at my YouTube channel in the playlist called Wealth Generation Chats or whatever, I've done about 3 or 4 M&A chats, and in I think 2 of them, I go through the LORA in depth. But typically what happens is when I buy a business, I don't put any money in. So I will effectively get 35% of the business for £1. And in fact, let's explain it a bit more. So what happens is I'll find a really profitable business that I like. I effectively then say, look, I want to come on board. I'll give you everything I know. I'll do everything. I'll tweak things. You can have full access to my marketing team. And if I can, double your profit over the next 2 years, I would like 35% of your business. And then this is a big nutshell. And then guess what? I do it, and then I get equity in the business. That's really big picture, but there's a few nuances to that. And so now, whenever I buy a business, I'm effectively doing it through this LORA. Technically, it's a call option, and so there's no money that passes. There's nothing happens, and you will know within the first 3 to 4 months if there are any skeletons in the closet. If this person is a good person, are they a good business owner, etc. And if they're not, and you want to bang out, well, great. You pull that black and yellow lever handle, and you bang out. And it's cost you nothing, just a bit of time. There's no money that's passed, or £1 has actually passed. You need in order to make a contract legal in those sorts of things, you have to have a transaction. So it's £1. Maybe I could save some money and do it in £1 instead of £1, possibly. So I would be very. I wouldn't worry too much in due diligence. I would learn that LORA, watching those videos, and then execute those. Sorry, yeah, that's my quick answer.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah, cool. So that's the scams. Oh yeah, I've got 2 more on this list here, which I want to go through. So moving away from the Amir scam, I've also wrote taking and paying for advice. Nearly all of the times I've been hurt the most is when I've paid for legal advice or paid for accounting advice. Seriously, the amount of times I've had an accountant screw me over accidentally or through sheer incompetence has been ridiculous. It has been, I would say, apologies if you're an accountant here, I would say the accounting practice is one of the most incompetent industries out there right now. Seriously, in 10 years I've had 7 different accountants. Not because I'm fussy. It's just like, I think there's been probably 3 years where my accountant has forgotten to do my year-end tax return, my personal tax return, year-end company accounts. Like, how, as an accountant, how do you freaking forget? It's your freaking job. Like recently, so Ellie has got a brand new business called myfairypenpal.com. It's amazing. She's just her accountant right now is just screwed up as well. I think he forgot to file something. Ellie will have to explain it, but her accountant forgot to do something regarding furlough, blah blah blah, which meant she couldn't furlough some staff or get some payments, and it cost her 800 quid. So now she has to pay 800 quid, which she didn't need to. I mean, it's like, and for a small business, £800 is a lot of money. So so these days, I would say it's worth learning as much as you can, to a certain extent, about basic accounting and legal stuff, just so you have a good enough bullshit detector. So yeah, to the point where I've been complaining about accountants so much, I think I may actually set up my own accounting firm. I'll probably end up buying, I will. It's just a matter of time. I've got a lot on my plate at the moment. I will buy an accounting firm, so it's all up and running, has clients, etc. And then I'll do the tweaks. Like, for example, I think it should be a basic matter of course that an accountant, you deal with one person. So one thing I've found, especially when you go with bigger firms, is that you make friends with the partner or whoever's lured you into the company, and then they palm you off to 5 minions, and before you know it, you've got 5 points of contact, all asking the same freaking questions because they're not talking to each other. They don't know your business. I mean, put it this way, I had one accountant for 2 years. So you would have thought after 2 years of being an accountant for a business, they would know your business. And then one day the accountant was doing my VAT return and sent me a massive spreadsheet. I was like, Simon, what are these payments? What are these? So this was for the realistic trader. And I was like, is it April the 1st? I thought he was having a joke. And I was like, and basically there was like something like 15 different payments, all coming in from Stripe. So one thing, he knew that, every payment from Stripe was simply a new customer. And he didn't know. Oh man, I'm going to have to move topic because nothing makes my blood boil more than accounting, with the shitty stuff I've had. And I've even thought, am I the common denominator here? Like, is it me? And I've spoken to lots of other people and they've all had the same things. Like, yeah. And even when I've paid extra money to say, hey, look, here are my key metrics in my business. And at the end of every month, I would love you to email me the stats on all my key metrics. I would love it if, on the last Friday of every month, please email me these 10 metrics so I can just keep an eye on certain things. And if they go, oh, yeah, okay. And I'll go, look, I'll pay more. I'll pay an extra 500 quid or whatever you want. Just charge me. And all I want is that email. And then they still forget. Or they sent, even worse, they sent me, once they got the hang of it, then a couple of times they sent me the key metrics, and I've looked at them and went, there's something wrong here, they're wrong. And guess what? The metrics are wrong. And the thing is, if an accountant screws up, who's liable? Not the accountant. You're the one that signs the VAT return. You're the one that signs the year-end accounts. You're the one that signs everything as the director. All the shit lands on your shoulders. Accountants get, bugger off. So yeah, so that's the other one. And the last one is mentors and coaches. So mentors and coaches. This has been an interesting one. It's so when you first start out in business, you know nothing. Okay, you really know nothing. And even if you've been in business a couple of years where you think, oh yeah, you got the hang of this now, I guarantee you know nothing. And even now, I've been in business only probably 10 years, and I'm pretty sure I still know nothing on the grand scheme of things. It's one of those things, the more you learn, the more you realise how little you don't know. It's a bit like astronomy. The more we learn about the universe, the more we realise we're not even insects on a cosmological scene. We're barely touching single-celled organisms on a grand cosmic scale. So what happens for new business owners is that they go searching for mentors and coaches. And there's all sorts of companies out there. You have Action Coach, and you have all these other business advice or business consultants or business coaches and stuff like that. And it's a space which I'm not too keen on, to be honest. For a start, a lot of these business coaches have never run a profitable business themselves. So, yeah, they're still giving business coaching. So I find that a bit incongruent. It's like taking financial advice from a financial advisor who's not financially sound themselves. And And it's weird, the only rich financial advisors I've ever met, and it's been probably 5 of them, the only reason they were rich is because they owned the financial advisory firm. But I've never met a financial advisor who's become wealthy through investing, if that makes sense. So again, there's lots of incongruencies here. And so you got to be careful who you take advice from, basically. And I want to differentiate the key difference between mentors and coaches. So a proper coach is someone that doesn't give you any answers. Okay, so you may have a dilemma, a quagmire, a question that you want solving, and what a coach does is they should just ask questions. They ask you questions and they try and probe your mind about the question. How do you feel about this? What do you think is best? Blah, blah, blah. So a proper business coach should never ever give an answer. And then and through their questioning, you answer the question yourself. That's what a proper coach does, and that's what a proper business coach does. And also, I guess there's a side sort of branch from that. Also, a business coach teaches you stuff. It can teach you stuff about blah. So you've got to be careful with business coaches. So you have to understand, are you getting a business coach where they are simply going to be your business shrink, effectively? Or is it a business coach which will teach you stuff? So that's absolutely fine. And if you have a teaching business coach who hasn't, run a successful business themselves, that's not too bad. Because sometimes you have people that, that for whatever reason they haven't done well financially, but they have very good knowledge of a certain niche, for example. You could have someone that is absolutely amazing at, some form of marketing or whatever, and you can learn. Yeah, so that's fine. However, a business mentor is on the other side of the scale. A business mentor literally gives you their opinion. It's like, hey, I've got this problem. What should I do? And the business mentor is normally someone who should be experienced and should have walked the walk, and they'll go, oh, well, last time this happened to me, I did this and I got screwed over, so it's probably best if you do the opposite, stuff like that. So a business mentor is someone that gives you business advice from hindsight. And how do you get hindsight? You need experience. And so you got to be very careful. So hopefully the last few minutes I've helped you form a tiny bullshit detector or a radar regarding business coaches and mentors. And a lot of business coaches and mentors don't know the difference between coaching and mentoring. And here's the other thing. What a lot of people do is they go, right, I'm set up in business, I haven't got revenue yet, or I'm making less than £1,000 a month revenue, and then they go out and try and find someone like Elon Musk to be their mentor, which is like the worst thing you could ever do. Because if you find someone 1,000 levels above you, they haven't walked your shoes for probably a good 10, 20 years. It's like trying to ask Richard Branson, so for this TikTok ad campaign, do I do this or this? What's Richard Branson going to do? I don't know. I have people that do it for me. Well, is that going to be helpful for you? No, it's not. Having Richard Branson as a business mentor will be epic as long as your business is in a stage that you can, execute the stuff that he's going to give you. So I love Elon, but I would not want him as a business mentor at the moment. Eventually, I would love to, but right now, I don't think he could help me. He'd probably say, yes, I would quit your businesses, just sell everything, and then do this business or something. I don't know. So as a business mentor, you need someone 5, maybe 10 levels above you. So, and look at it in profitability. If your business is chucking out £1,000 per month profit, you need someone that's got a business that's doing 10 grand a month profit. Because they're only a few steps ahead of you. Yes, their profit is 10x of yours, but in terms of time, they're probably only a couple of years ahead of you, maybe 5 years, depending how good you are at implementation. So, yeah. And if someone is, if a £10,000 per month profit business owner is giving advice to a £1,000 per month profit business owner, that's good, because the 10 grand business owner will have very recently gone through the shoes and the stuff that the new one's coming up with. And for example, a lot of new business owners, they don't need advice on, mergers and acquisitions and charity structuring to get, tax efficient charity structuring and stuff like that, which is what big businesses basically do. You don't need that. Like, most of the people I speak to are people that look, I've got an idea, I just need to get it out there, I need to get some eyeballs on it, I need some marketing, I don't know how to build a website, I don't know how to connect the Stripe and PayPal to my website and my CRM, how do I build a landing page, what is a landing page, what do I put on the landing page, what do I put in the video, how long should the video be, should I, all of these tiny granular questions, they're the things that new business owners want. Which is why, again, this is what the WAP is all about, the Wealth Action Plan. It literally covers everything. It's like a Netflix for business. Like if you want to learn about internet marketing, there is a module on that. If you want to learn about copywriting, there's a module. There's a module for every little thing that you need to do. That's what new business owners need. Now, if you then have a business where you're making between $1,000 to $5,000 a month profit, then you need a proper mentor to really handhold you. But here's the next drawback for mentors. You then use them as a crutch, which isn't good. It's not good at all. And there have been periods in my business world where, I remember back probably from 2013 to 2015, I had a business mentor, and I thought I was doing the right thing, because that business back then wasn't doing much. It was probably making $3,000 a month profit. I was looking for someone that was doing 10 to 20 grand a month profit, and I found someone who's a really nice guy. We're still friends. And hey, you're probably here right now, so you know who you are. And he gave great advice, because he was a good bloke running good business. He knew all that. You could ask him a granular question and he'd be able to answer it, and you can ask him a big picture question and he'll be great. But what happened is, because I was impressed by him, I'll say your name, Kevin. Hey mate. I began to use Kevin as a crutch. And I was incapable of making any decision on my own. So I'd have something the business needed to do. Do I do this or this? And I would be like, I don't know. I'll ask Kevin. Kevin, what do I do? And then Kevin will give his, 2 cents. I'll be like, oh, good. Yep, okay, I'll do that then. Literally. And so before you know it, for a 2-year period, my business was being run by Kevin, not by me. And I was effectively the operations manager, and he was the director. You shouldn't do that. So good news is that nothing bad happened, but by 2015 I realised that I need to take the stabilizers off my bike now and actually do things myself, because you're not going to get better as a business owner if you can't make freaking decisions. That's what it's quite funny. Like my wife and I, we're completely different people in every way. Pretty much, like if you took two different, like the most polar opposites of people, that's me and my wife. Literally. That in every single aspect of life we are completely the opposite, which is probably why we've been together 12 years now. So for example, decision making or questions, whatever, like Ellie will mull over a question forever to the point it pisses me off. Like she'll be like, do we do this or this? I'm like, probability states that this is probably the best answer, so yeah, let's just do this. That'll be the end of that question in my mind. I'll strike it off and I'll burn it from my mind. I don't even want that question to clog up my mind anymore. And it'll be done. And I'll give the most logical answer. But then Ellie will keep asking me that same question probably 10 times in a day for the next week. I'm like, we've spoken about this. Come on, just do this. Move on. But yeah, and so in business, you shouldn't do that. Now, you just need to make a decision, move on, and if the decision you made was shit, and it ends up biting you in the arse, you go, okay, cool, that was evidently wrong, let's pivot and do the other thing. And so business is all about do, fail, learn, pivot as fast as you can. Simply make a decision, do it, and if it's wrong, you can quickly pivot. And by the time you've made a bad mistake and pivoted and done the correct course of action, if you can do that fast, you'll be able to outmaneuver anyone. Not that you're competing against anyone. You shouldn't be competing against anyone. You're competing against yourself. It's just a computer game, after all. It's like a video game. But yeah, I can, in most cases, with lots of other business owners I know, I can make a bad decision, screw up, and fix it before they've made a decision on whether to go left or right. And I think that's the only real skill I have. You should just be completely fearless in decision making. That is it. And the reason I am fearless in decision making is because I see everything as data. That is it. Nothing is good nor bad, but thinking makes it so, as Shakespeare says. And so it says I treat the same as with decisions. It's just data. Okay, I did this. The data's come back, and it says that was the incorrect course of action. Okay, let's do the other one. Oh shit, that didn't work either. So all of a sudden you now do 2 actions and get 2 F-ups. Well, that means, what is the data telling you? The data's telling you that there's a third option or a fourth, or the question you're trying to solve is the wrong question. So yeah, right, I've been rabbiting on. Oh damn it, another 30-minute conversation turning into 44 minutes. Before we go anywhere, any questions on Clubhouse or Facebook? I'm just going to quickly scroll through the questions. Okay, Gary Davies. Hi Simon, after your input the other day, I got thinking of how I can gain some more custom. I decided to promote sponsor a hole at my foot golf course. Good idea. In return for sponsorships, biz get good value of foot golf and help promote my biz. Sold all 10 slots at 250 quid a go in a day. Freaking yay! Nice one, Gary. Good effort. Fixed cost of the biz covered for that new season. Mate, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And so for that 250, do they get like a big old sign of their business and stuff like that? Because I've seen them at golf courses and you can pay, my mate paid like $2,000 for this little plaque and you can even see it on like the 5th hole or whatever. So yeah, make sure, whoever your sponsors, that, they're happy with their slot. Because I know when my mate came to see his sponsored hole, he was like, where the hell is my plaque? And it was like this tiny thing hidden. So nice one, Gary. Tara, one thing I'm worried about is your own security. A load of your materials now, and especially crypto. I'm not too sure what you mean, Tara. Oops, hadn't finished. You let slip a lot of your own personal info and obviously hold crypto, and your own advice is not to go public with that. So worried. Yes, Tara. The first rule of crypto is tell no one that you own crypto. So I do. I guess there is a target on my back. So all I would say is that I feel sorry for anyone that tries to break into my house. I have mapped out my house, the choke points, that how to do a controlled fallback into the panic room to like that. Yeah. For a start, no, I'm not going to say that paintball. In fact, yeah, that paintball gun out there fires marbles. By the way, it's very powerful. But that's not the only thing. So, Bijan, 3 questions. I've asked them beforehand, but you don't have time. Oh my lord. Oh wow, these are big questions. Okay, these are all about the Great Reset, etc. Now is not the time for the Great Reset stuff. We'll have to do a whole topic on the Great Reset, mate. I'm so sorry. Your second question: if someone gave you £1 million house in London for free, what would you do with it? I would sell it straight away and put it all in crypto. I'm not even joking. Sell it straight away for I basically I would use the capital and I'll probably split it between crypto and business. That is exactly what I would do with it. I do not want to own residential or even commercial property in London right now. And also, just look at the cost. What is the cost? So let's say you have I don't know, £1 million property, and let's say you can rent it out. What's the rent going to be? I don't know. I have no idea what a £1 million house would rent out to. I don't know. Let's say it's £5,000 a year, £5,000 a month. Okay. So what was that? That's £60,000 a year. So £60,000. Divide that by £1 million. That's a 6% yield. Ugh, horrible. Honestly, that's such a waste of capital. Move that capital and make, you can make 10% or more with other stuff. So, and that's not factoring in, I mean, that's just gross. That's not net. Don't forget you've got clause 24. That's affecting you with the tax, and you're being taxed on the full rental, not the profit. Yeah, so moving on. Hadley, how did you get to a point of investing so much money with these people? Were they amazing opportunities, or are you just too nice? I'm not sure what you mean with the question. I guess the thing is that whenever I do investments, I do put a sizable amount in. So I'm not a fan of diversification. Warren Buffett even says diversification is a hedge against ignorance. If you know what you're doing, there's no need to diversify. And by diversifying, you are literally guaranteeing pots of your money to not do anything. Because you only diversify if you don't know what you're doing and what's going to happen. So I typically only, when I am pretty confident in something, I then put big chunks of capital into it. And yeah, I lose sometimes, but my wins far outpace and exceed my losses. And so I'm a bigger fan of concentrating your wealth in things that you have high certainty. And then and over a period of, say, 10 years, the probability is that you're going to be right more than you're wrong. Or even if you're not right, even if you're wrong more than you're right, as long as the risk to reward isn't there, then you're fine. It's all about taking asymmetric risks. So this is why I love crypto. Crypto is the best asymmetric risk play I've ever seen in my life. So if you put £1,000 in, what's the risk? Okay, you could lose all of it. So it's minus 100%. Okay, that's the risk. What's the upside? I don't know, 2,000%. In fact, there have been chunks of my crypto pots where I have made 2,000%. So that's a great play, risking 100% to make 2,000% or more, or less. But it's a great asymmetric risk. Whereas what is the asymmetric risk play with a rental property? It's all in the risk. There's no upside, unless you're happy with making, I don't know, 2% net yield per year. Dan Palmer said there really are arseholes across the world in business and in everyday life. Yeah, I know. And the thing is, when extra zeros get added onto numbers, that it's an amplifier of one's inner douche. Rosie Atherton, hi Simon. Yes, even after 10 years, I have discovered people I knew well seemed trustworthy that weren't. Yeah, I agree. Some I took legal action, some went to prison. Jeez, okay, they must have been horrible. Anita really struggled to find good accountants. I agree with you. And Zed says, hi Simon, if someone never done business or trading before and would like to get into a side hustle, where would you start? With WAP or the Realistic Trader? The WAP, for sure. Just do the 1 month trial. You'll learn a truckload. And then just do the WAP. It's only 300 quid a year. It's like £30 a month. Or it's 300 quid a year or £30 a month. But what is 300 divided by 365? It works out to 82p a day. Is insanely cheap for for what you'll learn in the WAP. Joe, yeah, golf is back. It's great. It's interesting. So I've got a big golf bet with a friend this year, and I'm going to absolutely smash Sam Hewitson at golf. And so I've applied how I normally hack everything, and it's just by numbers. And so what I've done, every time I walk the dog in the garden, thankfully we've got a nice big sort of 25-acre garden here, so the walks are endless. But every time I go for a walk, I take my golf club and I hit some balls and then I walk to it. So I've been playing golf every day basically in my garden, and sometimes, probably at least once a week, I've got a big bag of balls, and I think it's like 200 balls, big bag, and I'll hit that, and in a day I'll do 1,000 chips. And so I think over the last 6 months especially, I must have done over 10,000 chips. And so my chipping is just, it's amazing. Whereas before, I'd be like 10 foot from the green, going to nicely chip it on, and then I'd skin it, and it'd go like 50 feet beyond the green. So I'm no longer a chipping biff. So all I need to do now is get the ball near, within 50 foot of the green, and then I'm going to freaking, plop it in the hole. My chipping is good now, Hewitson. I'm going to take your money. So, right, other questions. So Gary's they get awesome exposure, lots of branding visibility on the course, various foot golf tickets, and they can use for their employees, friends. Well, yeah, nice. You've done this right, mate. Nice one. Dougal Gow, long time no see. I don't know if you're still here, but wow, that is a blast from the past. Dougal, are you here right now? If you are, I remember. So this is it's sort of embarrassing. When I did officers training back when I was 18 years old, I was the basket case in the whole course. So I was on 216 IOT, initial officers training, back in the Air Force, and I guess I had a bit of a sheltered life because I was just useless. I couldn't iron, I couldn't do anything, and I was letting my group down. I forgot what flight I was in, A flight or something, I don't know. And I remember Dougal being in my flight, and there's one day where we had this inspection at like 5 in the morning, and everything had to be perfect. The bed had to be perfect, the uniform had to be perfectly ironed and stuff like that. And everyone else was pretty, not pretty old, but everyone was like, most people on that were, 30 years old plus, and I was like this tiny 18-year-old boy that knew nothing. And and so everyone had got ready for the 5 o'clock inspection, and it was like, it got to 12 o'clock, and those in my flight looked at my thing, and I thought I'd ironed it all nicely, but it was apparently my ironing was shit. And then what happened is that we were ironing all of my kit till like 1 in the morning. The whole flight did, and I remember Dougal being one of them, going like ironing my shirts and making them amazing. So Dougal, mate, yeah, you saved us on that inspection, so nice one. And many other occasions. Yeah, I once put Sprite in my iron to see if I could. Yeah, that didn't end up well. I ended up ruining some of my uniform with caramel dripping out of this iron. Just, yeah. Anyway, end of 55 minutes in. Let's call it a day. Has this helped, folks? Hopefully it has. There's a massive lag on Facebook, so I'm not going to wait for your yes it did or not. But yeah, this is going to be popped on YouTube as soon as I can, and I will see you tomorrow. And tomorrow we're going to be talking about whether to stay as a sole trader or a limited company. The answers, in most occasions, a limited company, depending on revenue. But yeah, we'll talk about that tomorrow. Right, toodles, folks. See you soon. Bye bye.